Welcome back to the TwinSpires Jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully and Darin Zoccali to talk our best bets and fades of the week at Saratoga for the Jim Dandy card. We'll look at Del Mar and Woodbine, who also has a big weekend of stakes action up north on Saturday. James, I will start things off with you today. Tell me what your best bet of the week is.
Well, first off, welcome back, Ashley. We missed you
Oh, thank
last
you.
week. And Darin, it's good to see you back as well. I know you were on the jury last week, but got the whole cast back. My best bet's going to come at Saratoga in race 7. It's a maiden special weight for 2-year-old fillies at 6 furlongs Saturday, and it is number 7, Tommy Joe. Um, Todd Pletcher has been aiming his best 2-year-old first-time starters during the Saratoga meet to these big Saturdays for decades. Seen him win these, and he's off to a really good start this meet. He had a real nice first-time starter win last Saturday. He won 2 maiden races the weekend before. And I'm excited to see this Tommy Joe debut in race number 7. This is an Into Mischief filly out of Mother. And Pioneer of the Nile is Mother sire, but Pioneer of the Nile was like, he's like 9 or 10% first out with his offspring. Even American Pharaoh, who was by Pioneer of the Nile, couldn't win first time out. So he's not known for like throwing these like precocious, ready to go runners. But Mother, Tommy Joe's dam won by 6.5 lengths at first asking, and then came right back in her next start and won a juvenile stakes. So this is win early breeding on both sides of the pedigree. I really like the work tab. This is a filly that has 8 works since early June in preparation. Pletcher has squeezed works in every 6 days. And if you look at all of her works going back to June 16th, they're in it's like 16 of like 70 or 6 of 50. There's none of them that are not in the top third percentage of all the workers that day at the distance. So she's training really forwardly for a trainer who has these youngsters. He's won a bunch of maiden races already in the short span of the Saratoga session. And I think this Tommy Joe is gonna be a good one for Pletcher. Obviously, this race has a big favorite in Vajra has a morning line favorite in Vajra, who was bet down to favoritism. I'm a little bit concerned by the way she stopped in her debut, even though she had run against Chopsticks. And this Immortalized for Brad Cox. Going to have some turf pedigree in there and longer distances potentially down the road for her. So I think Tommy Joe will be ready to go. I like to draw in post 7, and she's my best bet of the week.
I admire the pick. I obviously handicapped Saturday's card for our video selections on the TwinSpires website. This race on paper, 5 of the 10 dams in the race were stakes winners on the racetrack. So one of those typical Saratoga 2-year-old races where it seems like anybody nearly in the field could jump up. Tommy Joe was definitely one of the ones for me. You mentioned Immortalized shipping in from Churchill Downs. I thought that one was interesting. Academia is by Into Mischief out of Wildcat. Definitely some precocity in that pedigree as well for Chad Brown. But I agree. I actually almost made Vajra my fade because the Vacomas, when they're good, they're typically good right out of the chute. And I was definitely concerned that this horse stopped similar to what you said, the way she did in debut. So very interesting race. Also got to give a shout out to Yalpan, who's off to a sensational start, winning at a 30% clip with his offspring. And he's got number 2, Tennessee Bell in here for John Ortiz. So this is one of those races where when you're doing the multi-race exotics, if you don't have a strong opinion, you got to get deep in your pockets for this one.
Well,
I like Lollipopin too.
Yeah, and Darin, those
Bill
are my
Mott
races.
Doesn't. Go ahead, James.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
I just wanted to say those are the kind of races I like to take a stand in, where you have a race like this where you're going to have a lot of people who are going to look at it and want to spread. And I always like taking a stand in races like that. Sorry, Ashley.
No, it's okay. I was just pointing out Lollipop and Big Price. Bill Mott doesn't necessarily win often first time out, but Dam has 5 winners from 5 starters, including a stakes winner, and put in a good work at Saratoga on July 18th and bred for the distance. So if you're looking to take a swing with a bigger price, might get something around 15 to 1 at post time. And gotta like that name, right?
Definitely.
Darin, what is your best bet?
Saratoga also, race number 9, the Grade 3 Lake George for the 3-year-old fillies, going a mile and a 16th over the inner turf course. Worth mentioning that number 2, Pretty Lavish, is going to scratch here and run at Woodbine in the Ontario Colleen, which is a race that Ashley's going to talk about in just a moment. I love Play with Fire in here against the favorite Classic Q. Play with Fire, 2 starts back, won the Hilltop Stakes on Preakness weekend at Pimlico. That particular race, she beat Pretty Lavish, Princess Attitude, and also Sigh No More. Sigh No More came out of that race to win the Boiling Springs at Monmouth, and Pretty Lavish ran second in the Boiling Springs at Monmouth. So that race has come back to be a key race. I think it was a strong race. The figures in that race came back strong. And I thought Play with Fire did exceptionally well last time out over the inner turf course at Saratoga in the Wild Applause to make up a ton of ground on Classic Q, who had all of the running on the front end. You couldn't get a better trip than what Classic Q got on the front end here. And Play with Fire at this point is about 7 lengths out of it, going to be in the gold colors here, picking up horses and rallying well in the stretch to just kind of get alongside Classic Q, but just does not quite have enough punch to get by, as Classic Q did benefit from what was a very advantageous trip on the lead over what is typically a pretty speed favoring inner turf course at Saratoga, especially when the rails are down. So for me, I think that Classic Q, I'm hoping doesn't get the same exact setup again. I'm hoping a horse like Good Long Cry might try to push her early. Maybe Lavender Disaster can show a little bit of early foot and make things a bit contentious. I would hope they learn from the Wild Applause and don't allow Jose Ortiz to walk the dog on the lead once again. Any type of a setup, I think Play with Fire is going to run them all down, guys.
Yeah,
I
I
like the
like
pick a
that.
lot.
Yeah, I think I thought I thought that was a tough beat if you were on her last time. Yeah, you did a good job. I thought Classic Q. I mean, I came out of that race thinking Play with Fire was, the better runner, like at that moment. And I agree. I don't think Classic Q is going to just get that dream trip again. I will mention a long shot that I'm intrigued by in there, that Raining Flowers. I also thought was a little intriguing just because of our affinity for the turf, but that might be more of like a vertical exotics type filly.
Yeah, the long shot that I like is actually Princess Attitude, who I mentioned earlier. She ran third in the Hilltop. She made the lead in mid stretch and got a little bit tired late, and then came out of that race to run a very good second behind the very talented Lush Lips in the Tepin at Churchill Downs. I thought that was a strong race. Vixen is a talented runner, and she finished in front of Vixen in that spot. Then you take a look at the race 4 starts back. She ran behind a filly named Serendipity. Serendipity is an up-and-coming 3-year-old filly in Canada for Ellen J. Foxwoods, who won the Grade 3 Celine Stakes in wire-to-wire fashion and probably has some bigger things on tap for her future. So I think the morning line on Princess Attitude might be a little bit high. I don't know if we're getting 15-1, but I think she's a definite horse that you want to include in your exotics to try to spice things up.
I won't say too much because I have my fate in this race, so I'll talk about that in the next segment. But I'll move over to my best bet, which is in the Grade 3 Ontario Colleen Stakes at Woodbine, and that is number 5 Candy Quest at 8-1. This is race 8 on Saturday. And looking at the pace scenario here, a lot of these runners like to come from far off the pace. You've got this 7 in here who probably will get the early lead. I didn't realize when I was handicapping this race that Darin has an interest in this particular filly who he has some ownership in. And I do think that Hidden Quarry will benefit from the lack of speed in this race, but Candy Quest can rate just off that early speed. And looking at her past performances, last 2 starts, she hit yielding turf and then also had turf that was a little bit softer 2 starts back as well. Looking for potentially firm ground on Saturday, which I think will benefit her. She's done well previously over a firm surface, and she was in a stakes race at Gulfstream Park at 7.5 furlongs and got up to just get beaten by half a length. And I think here racing a mile again has a better shot this time around, as well as I was saying with the pace scenario, just looking at how many are going to come from far off. I think it's going to be one of those 2 front runners in the mix. Certainly think you can play the 7 as well at a big price and an exacta box, but I'm going to go with Candy Quest at 8-1, picking up Saheen Savachi as well. High percentage at Woodbine, and so is Mark Cassie. So that is my best bet at 8-1.
Yeah, I don't think you get an 8-1.
Yeah, I don't either.
I
Yeah.
when as you
Those are
mentioned, I have an ownership interest in Hidden Quarry. When the PPs, well, actually, when we first looked at the nominations, this filly intrigued me, and when the race came out, intrigued me even more. She's coming off a yielding turf course in the Penn Oaks, where she was defeated by Laurelin, who's an undefeated 3-year-old filly. She was defeated by Laurelin in the Memories of Silver. Her second lifetime start, she ran behind She's So Spicy, who is a extremely talented 3-year-old filly turf sprinter, and she was sprinting in that race. And then if you look at the race on March the 29th to Sanibel Island, take a look at the horses that ran behind her that day. Classic Q, who's the favorite in the Lake George, was fourth behind Candy Quest. And Love Surveyor, who is a back-to-back stakes winner and could potentially be running in a race like a grade one. I wouldn't be surprised in the near future. Was fifth in that race. So Candy Quest has kept good company, has run well against it. I think she's very dangerous in here. Yeah, you mentioned the filly that we own, Hidden Quarry. She broke well in the Boiling Springs. That was kind of a paceless race. Fernando Hara put a great ride on her, put her on the lead. I don't know if she's this good, but this is the time when you have these 3-year-old fillies at this point of the season. If they run well in a stake, it's worth taking a shot at a graded stake because the races are only going to get harder later on in the year, especially when they have to face older horses. So this was a spot that we circled coming out of that last race. And, we'll see. We'll see if she's this good. I don't know. But if she makes the lead, hopefully that towering stretch at Woodbine doesn't prove too daunting for her. But I do, as a handicapper, I like your pick a lot in here.
Well, I wish you luck this weekend, Darin.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's move over to our fades of the week. So I think that goes to you, Darin, to start things off.
Yeah, so my fate is actually going to just come in an allowance race at Woodbine on Saturday. Race number 4. It's 6.5 furlongs. It's run over that EP Taylor course, that wide course. Number 6, Milliot in here for Brendan Walsh. Yeah, it just looks like a filly to me that just never gets there. Her lone win was going 7 furlongs over the synthetic at Dundalk. And if you go back and watch that race, she was actually near the lead in that spot. And then she hasn't really come close to being anywhere near the front since coming here. They tried to keep her a little bit closer last time out in her first race back off the layoff, and she didn't have the same punch that she has when she closes. I just think this is a filly that needs every single thing to go right for her to get there. She's got some class to her. She's running some stakes. She's run against some good horses, Gift of Gab and Ozara to name a couple. But I just prefer some of the horses in here that are going to be closer to the pace. And again, I don't like taking favorites that need everything to break right. So Milliot for me is a horse to play against. I think Sinclarity is going to be very tough, stretching back out off a race where she faced a lot of trouble going just 5 furlongs. And that would be my pick in this field if I had to make one.
Yeah, I don't think you're probably going to be able to get a big price in there to win. If you wanted to take a swing with a long shot, maybe the 3 Weehawken for Saffie Joseph. But I agree with you. I thought Sinclarity looked really good, as well as potentially the 7, but I would rather take that 9 as well at 4-1.
How about Darin do the video work Dundalk race back in 2023?
I was just curious to see if she had like speed at all in there. To see if she could stay closer, and she actually did. But like that race was slow, and like we always talk about, there's a huge difference between European speed and American speed. European turf form is typically better, but American turf speed is typically quicker.
All right, well, James, you're up. What's your fade?
My fade is it's going to be Dr. Venkman in the Grade 1 Bing Crosby Saturday at race 10 at Del Mar. Now, Dr. Venkman, don't get me wrong, good horse. I mean, he's 3 for 4. He's actually, I put this pick in expecting him to be the morning line favorite. He's not. That goes to World Record, who's 3-1, and definitely I thought a contender for Rudy Brissett. Hajazi is 7-2, and then World Record's 4-1. But I still think I still think Dr. Venkman could challenge for favoritism, because the fact of the matter is this horse always gets bet. He was even money in last year's Pacific Classic, and ran fourth that day. But in his two previous starts at Del Mar, he was 4-5 and 2-5. So I do think he will get bet in this race. He got bet hard last time, and I thought that last race in the Kelly's Landing was a good example of what he'll potentially be up against in this race, where I just thought that the winner was fortunate to hang on, got the jump on him in the stretch, roll on Big Joe. And the 6.5 furlongs is a little sharp for Dr. Venkman, who's a quality 2-turn, like middle distance horse who's never won at 6 furlongs. So if you're asking me to take a short price, an expected short price on Dr. Venkman, trying to do something for the first time, win over 6 furlongs in here, I'm going to take a stand against him. I do think this race also has a ton of speed lined on. I mean, I could see a Jossie running well or World Record running well on the front end, but my top pick in there is Crazy Mason. I think he's going to get the right setup, shipping in. I like this Carter win 2 back. Thought it was a solid third to Bookham Dano and Milliken, who are much more serious Breeders' Cup Sprint contenders than any of the runners in the Bing Crosby field. And I look for Dr. Venkman to come up short at short odds in the Bing Crosby.
Yeah, I literally agree with everything that James just said, including his top pick in here. I could not like a horse more than I like Crazy Mason. I know at Del Mar, speed is supposed to be very tough, and these deep out the back closers don't necessarily do well at 6 furlongs, but something has to give in this race. I mean, every major player other than Crazy Mason wants to essentially be in just about the same spot. World Record has wild early speed. Roll on Big Joe is extremely quick. Magnic is extremely quick. I mean, something's got to give, and Crazy Mason has an insane late run. If you go back and watch his run in the Carter, it's mind-boggling where he came from to win that race. And like you mentioned, last race, he flew from last behind Bookham Dano and Mulligan. Bookham Dano came out of that race to win the Vanderbilt. Mulligan came out of that race to run second in the Vanderbilt. The Vanderbilt was a grade 1 without a grade 1 status tied to it. It's a grade 2. It should have been a grade 1. And that grade 3 True North was much better than a grade 3 as well. I think Crazy Mason is going to pick them all up and lay them all down here. He's a major lean for me in just about every sense of the word.
Yeah, I don't have much else to add there. World Record, I was kind of wondering before the morning lines came out who was going to end up being that favorite, because World Record, interestingly, has a very clear win-loss record and would be, based off the pattern, coming up on a win. But with all that speed, I think you're right. Crazy Mason looks like a really good shot and probably getting a decent price at post time. Let's see. My notes just disappeared on me. Where am I going? Back to the Lake George. That's right. I'm going to take it back to the Lake George and tell you why I don't like number 5, Classic Q. I gave you a Mark Casse horse at Woodbine at a price, and now I'm telling you a short price that I don't like that he has at Saratoga this weekend at 1.1 miles on the inner turf for 3-year-old fillies. And this is a filly who does her best running on the early lead. You talked about this, Darin. There's other horses who I think that are going to potentially go to the front and push that early pace. But the other issue is the distance. Last out, Classic Q got that win at a mile in the Wild Applause. But as you mentioned, you saw Play with Fire coming up late. And with that added ground, I think Play with Fire is certainly the horse that I would circle in this field. But looking at distance overall, I just think that Classic Q is stretching out. I don't know that she's going to do well with the added ground. And so I would rather go for a little bit bigger of a price, which I don't know what price we're going to get with Play with Fire, but there is another Chad Brown runner in this field with Lavender Disaster. And I do like Play with Fire better, even though Lavender Disaster is 5-2 and could improve that off the layoff. But for me, the biggest thing was the distance here. And I just think there's some other horses that you can get creative with, or at least trust in Chad Brown, I would say, in this field.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was a very heady ride on Classic Q last time, but I don't expect the same trip.
No, I don't either. I was kind of surprised that David Aragoni had Lavender Disaster so close to Classic Q on the morning line. I still think Play with Fire should be second choice. I'm not exactly sure why Lavender Disaster is supposed to take more money than Play with Fire in this race, but I've been wrong before. I was wrong when I bet against Classic Q last time, and my angle last time was her two best races in her life by far came when she was running on Lasix, and she was not on Lasix in the Wild Applause, and it did not matter at all. Now I'm just hoping that somebody goes out there and pushes her, same as you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't really sure why that was the longer price too, especially because the outside post seems to be doing okay. And so
I
hopefully we
read
do
when
get the
I
better
read rides
price.
for Chad. Yeah, when I read rides for Chad in New York, they just assume that the horse is going to take a lot of money.
Yeah.
I assume that's what it is. David Aragoni is one of the best odds makers, so I certainly don't try to knock him too much. I was just surprised that Play with Fire wasn't second choice.
True. You're getting the rider switch with Manny Franco. Flavian had been on there in the past,
Mhm.
but still you got a good turf rider. So, all right, we'll just hope that we get that longer price at post time. But let's move over to our promos and tournaments happening this weekend. So, Darin, what's going on at TwinSpires?
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Big weekend of racing. It's, of course, Jim Dandy weekend. I think we'll touch on that a little bit later on, that race, of course. We have the summer selected races money back. And the great thing about this offer is that it encapsulates a lot of different racetracks. We pick out some of the better races that we can find, whether it be level of competition, number of horses in the race, depth of the field. So we got a series of races between Saturday and Sunday, include some Saratoga, Ellis, Colonial. So be sure to opt into that. Check out which races are eligible, and you could make up to a $10 win wager in those races with a bit more confidence. Because if you run second or third, you will get your money back, the summer selected money back. Be sure to be opted in there. And if you are a tournament player, we're giving you 20 times wager rewards on your tournament bets. You can't beat that. So all of your plays in the tournaments, whether it be a cash tournament, a feeder tournament, a qualifier tournament, does not matter what tournament, what track, what day, 20 times wager rewards on your points, but you have to be opted in. So be sure to do that. And speaking of tournaments, exciting news this week. We now have Saratoga as one of our tracks that we can offer tournaments on. And the tournament players have been, participating in the Saratoga contests at a very feverish pace early on. Our cash contest yesterday had over 70 players. We're getting close to 70 players again today. And this weekend, we have a $100 cash challenge on Jim Dandy Day on Saturday at Saratoga. So be sure to be playing and opted in with us on that great card of action. Only a 5-horse field in the Jim Dandy, but that's one of those races where you got the right 5 in there. If you would have added in 30-1 long shots, I don't necessarily think it does anything for the race. So it's a great card. It's got the Lake George. $75 of the 100 goes to your bankroll. $25 goes to the prize pool. And then, of course, we also have feeders all weekend long. We got a bonus feeder right alongside this cash challenge, $200 to get into the Mint Millions Betting Challenge qualifier, which takes place on Monday at Ellis Park. So win your opportunity to get into the Mint Millions Betting Challenge, which, of course, is that big day of racing action at Kentucky Downs come September. That feeder contest, the bonus feeder, is on Saturday. Once we get to 10 entries, we give away 1 seat for every 4 players. So we really typically give away a lot of seats in these. And it's our first bonus feeder on Saratoga. So definitely excited about that, guys. A lot of great stuff this weekend at TwinSpires.
You alluded to it already with the Jim Dandy. James, tell us about that race for our what else?
Well, yes, only 5 are entered for Saturday's Jim Dandy, including Sovereignty, who is coming off terrific wins over a sloppy track in the Kentucky Derby and another smashing performance over a good track in the Belmont Stakes. But, this race is a prep for the Travers. And it'll be interesting to see what Sovereignty's tactics are in the early stages, because in this short field, there's only one speed horse signed on, and it's Moplex. He's coming off a win in the Ohio Derby. I still don't think he'll be, per se, good enough to steal the race. But I do think, since it's going to be such a short field, that if you think Baeza has a chance to turn the tables on Sovereignty, there's no way you should be betting him to win in the straight pools. The way to play a horse like Baeza is in the multi-race pools, because I dare say 90, maybe 95% of the multi-race tickets might look to lean and single Sovereignty. That won't be the case with Baeza, who have more value in like multi-race pools than in the straight exotics. And my thing with Baeza is this is a colt that was nowhere near as precocious as his brothers like Good Magic. Now, Good Magic didn't debut until a 3-year-old, but he won his debut by open lengths. And then he ran second 2 starts later to Forte in the Florida Derby. In his third career start, Baeza broke his maiden. I mean, he just needed, and his other brother Dornick won the Remsen at 2. And he needed 3 starts before breaking his maiden earlier this year. He went right to Santa Anita Derby. I thought he ran in spots in that race. I thought in the Kentucky Derby, he had a really adventurous trip. He was too wide on the backstretch. He got stopped in traffic on the far turn, and then he flew home. And if he had had another, one more stride left in that race, he nails journalism for second. It was a huge effort. I can look at how he worked in between the Derby and the Belmont and how he's working for this for this Jim Dandy. And I think he's much more tied on. I don't think he per se liked the good footing in the Belmont Stakes. I went back and watched that race again. All he does is basically, get involved in the final 3 furlongs just to secure a third. But he never appeared to be traveling comfortably. He's going to get a fast track, hopefully, on Saturday by Baeza. He's got a chance to step up with a big-time effort in my eyes. He's going to be sitting on an absolute career best performance. Whether that's good enough to beat Sovereignty remains to be seen, but at least I give him a chance in there.
Everything that James just said, with the exception of the workouts, is exactly what I said about Baeza going into the Belmont Stakes. I thought he ran, of the top 3 horses, I thought he ran the most compelling race in the Kentucky Derby because of the traffic that he ran into. He had to stop and start a couple of times. And if you switch the trips, Baeza and Sovereignty, Baeza wins the Kentucky Derby. I absolutely believe that. His Belmont Stakes for me was very disappointing. He did not break well. He did not show much tactical speed at all. And when he got himself positioned behind Sovereignty at the midpoint of the far turn and Sovereignty started to run, Baeza was in a full-out drive and could not keep up with him at all. Now, to James's point, the workouts that John Sheriffs has put into this horse since the Belmont Stakes are on another level. Does that indicate that he's ready to jump up and give a better showing? It could certainly be. But he needs to kind of prove to me now that Sovereignty has not separated himself from Baeza, and he can reverse that trend and step back up and run a race like I thought he was going to run in the Belmont Stakes. Because I know he ran third, and I won't use the word poorly, but I thought he was very mediocre in the Belmont Stakes, given what my expectations were for him. The tricky thing in this race for me, the post is interesting because you know that Moplex is going right to the front. And Sovereignty has shown now in that last race, the Belmont, that he has the tactical speed to lay close. On paper, Moplex goes to the lead. Sovereignty is going to sit second off of him. And Baeza is going to likely be in a spot third where he's going to have to run by Sovereignty. And he hasn't been able to do it yet. I'm going to need to see it to believe it, because I think once Sovereignty hits the front, I don't think there's a 3-year-old in the world that could run by him. And I think that's something Baeza is going to have to prove on Saturday.
I agree with you.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that based on
this
last. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say I agree based on the Derby and the Belmont. I do think there is a little bit of an element where it just might be just so irrelevant it doesn't matter. But those races were on off tracks. I know he won the Fountain of Youth on a fast track, and he's a lot better horse seemingly than he was earlier this year. But it will be good. I'm a little bit intrigued by this element where at least now we're going to get to see him at his best. On a fast track. Chance to see him deliver his best on a fast track.
Yeah, it is worth also mentioning, and I guess it makes sense. Flavian Pratt has given up this ride to ride Nysos in the San Diego before he runs in the Pacific Classic. I'm not going to use that as a knock against Baeza, because it certainly does make sense. You're going to ride the horse who could potentially be the favorite in the Pacific Classic. But it is worth mentioning that he is losing what the jockey that has ridden him the last 2 times in the Triple Crown races.
I do think it's worth taking a shot against Sovereignty a little bit here too, because I look at the Travers that's less than a month away, and I kind of almost wonder, do you want to I mean, obviously you're going to run your best race, but still, you don't want to take too much out of sovereignty. So if you look at how he's run in the past, I just kind of look back at that Florida Derby where he ran a good second, but maybe we'll see a good second and then we'll see a really good win in the Travers.
Could happen. Could happen. He also came back off the long layoff to win the Fountain Youth Stakes. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh,
you
I
never
know, but
know.
I think they were looking for the Derby and maybe being conservative in the Florida Derby. I don't know if
Could
they
be.
did. They wouldn't say it, but could
Yep.
be. All right. Well, Darren, what are you watching for this weekend?
Some international flavor this weekend. So Ascot is actually running on Saturday, and we actually have a tournament, a cash tournament on Ascot on Saturday. The big race on the day there is the King George and Queen Elizabeth Stakes. It's a Group 1 event going a mile and a half, and it's only got a field of 5 runners, but you're going to recognize some of these names. The morning line favorite is a Calendoggan going out off a win in the Group 1 Grand Prix de St. Cloud. He's one of the up and coming horses right now in Europe in terms of the longer distance races. He was second in the Group 1 Champion Stakes at Ascot last fall, and he has missed the exacta with the exception of just one lifetime start. That was actually the first start of his career. So his last 10 starts, he's been no worse than second with 5 wins. The 3 in here, John Brughel for Aidan O'Brien, is a son of Galileo, who's 5 for 6 lifetime. His only defeat came in April at the Curragh, going a mile and a quarter. Other than that, the horse has been completely flawless, ridden by Ryan Moore. And you get that old mainstay, one of the coolest horses that we've had the privilege to watch the last 4 or 5 years, Rebels Romance, an 18-time winner out of 26 lifetime starts. He's made over $13 million for Godolphin and Charlie Appleby, coming in off back-to-back wins, including a win in the Group 2 Hardwick at Royal Ascot as well. The winner of the 2024 Breeders' Cup Turf has won 3 or 4 races since then. A lot of people thought coming out of the race in Dubai that maybe he's kind of gone a little bit over the top and off form, but he has parlayed that with back-to-back wins over horses like Al Rifa, who's a next out winner and Epic Poet. Be curious to see what he does against what are arguably the 2 best stayers right now in Europe. So this is a very compelling race on Saturday. And I'll also briefly mention the Sussex Stakes is coming up on Wednesday. And that race is going to have an all-star cast of runners that includes what could potentially be viewed as the best horse in training in Europe right now in Field of Gold, who has been just a sensational 3-year-old. Rosalian, Henri Matisse is in there. Carl Spackler, the former American runner, is in there as well. So a lot of great things to look forward to on the international landscape this week coming up, guys.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Field of Gold run because, I thought that last race at Ascot, the Prince of Wales, I guess, was really a breakthrough performance for
St. James Palace.
Or St. James Palace, sorry. It was really a breakthrough performance for him. Like you said, what a promising miler. He could be the best miler in the world.
To wrap up, I'll take it over to Del Mar, where we already talked about the Bing Crosby, which is the Breeders' Cup when you're in for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. We also have the Daisy Cutter Handicap and then the Grade 2 San Diego Handicap, which, yes, Flavian Pratt is aboard Nisos, who is 3 to 5 in this race. And there's 2 big names in this race that stood out to me storyline-wise. Nisos, who is going to be trying 2 turns for the second time in his career. And the first time he did that, he won by 8 lengths, I want to say, and the Robert B. Lewis, a Grade 3 when he was a 3-year-old, and looked like he had a lot of promise for the Preakness at the time. Bob Baffert wasn't running in the Derby that year, but of course Nisos was sidelined, and we didn't see him come back until he came off a 15-month layoff and was a very, very close second in the Churchill Downs Stakes this season in his season debut, and then last out won by 5.5 lengths in the 7 furlong Triple Bend, a Grade 3. And that second place finisher in the field is Dr. Vinkman, who we talked about in the Bing Crosby. But Bob Baffert is looking to stretch out Nisos, and this is going to be the longest he's run so far in his career, racing at a mile and a 16th. But potentially, Baffert is hoping to have him as a classic contender. So we'll see if he can pass the test, which I think he should be able to pass the test this weekend. And he's obviously bred to handle longer distances, but it is interesting to see him go back out to 2 turns for the second time in his career and see how he handles it. The other intriguing storyline for me was Hall of Fame, who had seen in Steve Asmussen's barn another potentially promising 3-year-old last season who won by 10 lengths when breaking his maiden, but didn't make the Derby field, and then came back as a 4-year-old this year and won at Fairgrounds in the Grade 3 Mine Shaft, but since then has finished second, third, or fourth in his last 3 starts in graded stakes. Now making his first start in the barn of Michael McCarthy. So curious to see what kind of horse we get first time out for Michael McCarthy in this field. He's, I believe, 4-1 on the morning line. I do think Niso should be able to run away with this, but you've got his stablemate to the outside, Miramati, who's going to go to the front. And I thought the one, a longer price, probably not going to be able to get the win, but coming off a good second to Skippy Longstocking in the Hollywood Gold Cup, a grade 2, and could benefit from the cutback in distance. So a couple interesting storylines to follow in this race.
If you want to play against Nisos in the Pacific Classic like I do, then you sort of want to see him win this race.
Win by 10, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because there's going to be a big difference between 8.5 and 10 furlongs in my mind. Hall of Fame, I did think his second in the New Orleans Classic was a good effort because Sierra Leone sort of got up to him coming off the turn and he outfinished him to the wire. But he didn't run well. I thought that, and he ran okay behind Fierceness and Ali Sheba. I didn't like his blame effort, but perhaps he could turn things around and go to another level out west with McCarthy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the time to take a chance against Nisos will be in the Pacific Classic when he's going 1.25 miles, for the first time against grade 1 1.25 mile company. I mean, his only defeat in the Churchill Downs was one of the, might have been the best race he's ever run. And that might sound silly saying that because he's won races by 8 lengths. But when you consider the level of competition that he ran against that day, and the fact that he did that off of a 15-month layoff coming from 8th place that day in that crazy blanket finish. That was a really eye-opening performance for how talented of a horse he really is. How far he wants to go remains to be seen, which is why, like James said, if you think that he's maybe distance limited, you hope that he blows the doors off this field, goes off at 4-5 in the Pac Classic, and you could find a score elsewhere. Of course, journalism could appear in that race and take on older horses, which would be a compelling storyline here against Niso. So definitely interesting to see what he does on Saturday.
A lot to watch for this weekend, but that is all the time we have today for the jury. We'll be back next Thursday with more best bets and fades. And of course, on Tuesday, we'll recap a lot of the stakes action on our TwinSpires Racing Roundtable.